Welcome back to Issues with Cartoons. My name is Kyle.
I'm Carl.
And this is the show where we look at comics and their animated adaptations. We have been focusing on Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the show from 2010. And we are now on episode 8, which is the first standalone episode. It's not a two-parter. It's not a compilation of minisodes. This is just a good old-fashioned episode of animated TV, written by Brandon Auman, directed by Sebastian Montez. Some assembly required. Carl, this is like I said, one of those episodes that is kind of standalone. It's not dependent on having to watch a previous part. So this is gonna kind of be our first impression of the pace of a typical episode that isn't trying to break it down into multiple pieces. What did you think?
I feel like it echoed the plot of Avengers 1, the comic book. The 60s, the original Avengers comic book, and that it had a lot to do with Enchantress stepping in for Loki's role of brainwashing Hulk, and the team fighting Hulk.
Yeah.
And that was basically the episode.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
You're not wrong. We're going to talk about Avengers issue 2 in the second half of this program, and similarly, the Hulk is kind of the puppet that is played to become the punching bag of the Avengers. And it is interesting that you draw that connection. And at this point, Loki, we have not seen Loki since episode 2, Thor the Mighty. And Loki is typically the one in this role, like you say, of manipulating the Hulk. But yeah, we'll go through it and we'll kind of make our analysis. And would you say that added something to you, that it was so much like Avengers 1, or did it take away from you that it was so much like Avengers 1?
Honestly, with all the setup, like Thor getting his single episode and all the mini episodes and the lead up and the jailbreak and all this stuff, and it being so faithful to the original Avengers team, you have Giant Man and Wasp. I was expecting it to be more faithful, and it wasn't, and I was a bit disappointed watching it.
I'm going to counter you a little bit. I'm not saying you're wrong to feel that way. What I'll say is this does bring in the element from Avengers 1 where the origin of the Avengers was kind of covered using the New Avengers story. This one brings in the elements of the first story, which I feel like is a good acknowledgement of that story. Right. But you're right, they don't bring in Loki, they bring in the Enchantress. We'll have to stay tuned to figure out what's going on with Loki. But I will also say we had all this this big breakout happening and this kind of coming together of the heroes. And Asgard has kind of not really been a player all that much beyond what we saw in Thor the Mighty in episode 2. So this does kind of bring in that part of the world into the story.
That's right. It brings it back in.
We will see more of the Enchantress. We will see... I mean, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say we're not going to see the last of Loki. I mean, Loki's going to come back around. But
I don't doubt that.
But you are correct in that it is less of a faithful adaptation and more of an amalgamation of different storylines. I guess we should back up a little bit and just mention that this episode starts with them catching Mandrill, so it's following the premise that they set up in the breakout episodes. This team is assembled to
catching villains.
Yep, they're catching fugitives. Mandrill, by the way, I didn't know was a Shauna the She-Devil villain. I didn't realize that until I did a little bit of research. Voiced by Fred Teteshore, who, man, they are just getting their money's worth out of Fred Teteshore. I feel like he's voicing at least 2 characters in every episode. But we also get a little button at the beginning of the episode where we see Black Panther again. And he's on the docks, like arriving into the United States, and he's kind of checking out the Avengers and setting up something.
It's a little bit of a tease, yeah. Just it's a quick shot of the character, and then they kind of move right along.
Yeah, but we haven't seen him since Man on the Anthill, so it is interesting that he's around. My favorite scene in the episode was very close to the beginning when Pepper is outside of Avengers Mansion, and the only person on time was the Hulk. And I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but it's so funny to me that of this whole cast of characters, the Hulk, like the misfit, the outcast, the one that is supposed to be like the one nobody likes, is the punctual one. And not only is he on time, he rags on everyone else for being late. And he's very irritated that they're not respectful of the clock.
Hulk's the respectable one this time.
Thanks for being responsible.
Despite not wearing a shirt. Just
That's
running
true.
around
or shoes.
Yeah.
You're right. That is a little sour. But we do get a lot of the trappings of Avengers lore in this episode. Mm-hmm. Tony shows up and introduces them to the mansion. We get to see Avengers ID cards, which was actually a Claremont Byrne invention.
Interesting.
It showed up in Marvel Team Up number 60 in the 70s. We get our first look at the Quinjet, which is from Roy Thomas and John Buscema from the late 60s Avengers. We get the training room, which is essentially just the danger room. And they do a little training montage in there. And we see their assembly hall. So this episode just kind of establishes the team, establishes the setting that they're working with. You see in their assembly hall they have these holographic heads of all the different villains they have to catch, and really kind of showing you what the setup is now that we've gotten the initial meeting out of the way.
Don't we get a mention of Fantastic Four?
Oh.
And the Negative Zone?
We do. We do get a hint of the 52 prison. Because I think it was Tony was talking about, or maybe it was Hank, I forget who. But I do have in my notes that he was talking with Reed Richards about a solution for where to put these villains that they're catching.
Now that the vault's been destroyed.
And Prison 42 should be a familiar concept to people who read comics in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when this was being produced. If you've ever read the Civil War comic by Mark Millar and Steve McNiven, you're familiar with 42. But yeah, we do get a little name drop from Reed Richards. So the Breakout episode, we got some Doom references. Now we're getting some Reed references.
That was nice. I always like the Fantastic Four getting mentioned.
Yes.
Makes me happy. Yeah,
oh yeah. Anytime they show up. Well, and again, to your point about this echoing a lot of the points from Avengers number 1. The Fantastic Four cameo in there.
Good point.
It's interesting that they also are name dropped in here.
No, that's a great point.
We get a little taste of the Thor-Hulk rivalry in this, where Thor just wants Hulk to mind his manners and be a little more respectful, and Hulk just wants Thor to stop being so high and mighty. But a lot of good character interactions here. But the premise that the whole episode kind of hinges on is Banner has been trapped in Hulk's subconscious, and Amora the Enchantress from Asgard has taken over the inner voice of the Hulk and is kind of mind controlling him. So
how do you feel about Enchantress as a character, in general?
I mean, it's interesting because we're going to talk about her first appearance later, and there is a lot of overlap between how she functions and how Loki functions. As far as like the troublemaking, mischievous character, the manipulator. I come to Enchantress from reading old 60s Avengers comics where she's a member of the Masters of Evil and stuff like that.
Okay.
I don't know a whole lot about her in Thor comics.
I don't either, outside of the issue, which we'll be talking about later. I think I had like a trading card when I was younger.
Oh, sure.
With,
yeah.
like, an
if we're talking
Enchantress.
about if we're talking about merch, I'm sure she showed up in like ultimate guidebooks that I have and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read many comics with the characters, just to be blunt and honest.
Love that Kirby design though, that like Kirby as Guardian, like with the green and the circles and the headgear and everything.
Oh,
I think that's super cool.
I thought it looked like a Bruce Timm character, and
well, yeah.
Even Giant Man in this episode I felt looked like a Bruce Timm character with the big white eyes. I feel like Giant Man looked a lot like the Batman in the animated series design.
Interesting.
Like white eyes and stuff.
And we've talked before about how like there's definitely some conversation happening between Marvel animation and DC animation and like compiling different influences. I mean, that can't be by accident.
There has to be.
I mean, honestly, if we're talking about Bruce Timm's Batman and we talk about where that came a lot from Alex Toth. And
how, you could trace
he
it back
defined
to that.
animation with Space Ghost and how like masks are portrayed in animation.
Yeah, the Batman from Batman the Animated Series mask is inspired by Space Ghost. Yeah. You could draw that back. Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I as far as my opinions about her as a character, I mean, we don't get a lot in this episode about her character outside of.
Oh no, none at all.
She's just trying to use the Hulk to get to Thor. But like I said, this isn't the last we'll see of her. This isn't the last we'll hear about Loki. But beyond this conflict, was there anything noteworthy for you about what we got to watch?
I mean, outside of it kind of mimicking Avengers 1, you do get a tease of Cap's shield.
Yes.
At the end as well. That was notable because obviously I'm waiting for Cap to be introduced. I know it's coming. If it doesn't happen this episode, I wonder if it's next episode, but Cap has to come back.
Well, the next episode is called Living Legend. I'll just say that. Backing up though, what I do appreciate about this episode, again, knowing that this is made by people who are fans of the subject matter, and we're going to talk about this today, the Hulk as an Avenger, I feel like the MCU has changed how people view the Hulk in relationship to the Avengers. Because when we were reading comics in the early 2000s and in the late 90s, Hulk was not a team book guy. If he was on the Defenders, and reluctantly so.
Right.
He was on the Avengers for 2 issues. Now, forever he is a founder. But outside of him being a founder, he really wasn't involved in Avengers stories as a member of the Avengers until the movie came out in 2012. And then they started to put him back as a team member. I'm not saying he never showed up in Avengers books. He shows up in Avengers number 3 as an antagonist with Namor.
Yeah.
He shows up constantly as like a wild card character or as like a character they have to deal with. But kind of like Spider-Man in that way, where he's just kind of left to his own devices. And
that's exactly right. He just shows up in those first 2 issues.
So all that being said, it's very satisfying to me that after 1 episode of being a team, in the 2nd episode, Hulk's like, "I'm done, I quit." And he leaves. And to me, that felt very adherent to what we see come before. Now, is Hulk gone forever? I think it's fair to say no. I think I don't have to spoil anything by saying.
Oh, you mean in the context of this show?
This show, like, is he going to come back to be around the team? I think we can assume so.
They've put so much development into Hulk. At
the dynamics are so strong. They're also aware of the 2012 movie coming, I don't think you've had to have seen the show before to know that he's going to come back.
Yeah.
But I do love that they give that moment where he's just said, "You guys don't trust me. You showed me you don't trust me. Even when I was manipulated, that was the moment there where I could see your true colors." Mm-hmm. And we see that in Avengers 2 that we're going to read later. We also see the Executioner show up for a little bit. We'll get to meet him in the Journey into Mystery book we cover. We get Avengers Assemble. I think Tony says it at one point.
No.
When he's calling all the Avengers on their ID cards.
No teases here.
None. No, we're gonna do it. Second time they're together as a group. One thing I've noticed, and I meant to bring this up in the Thor episode.
Okay.
They keep calling Thor the Thunderer.
They do.
And they never call him the God of Thunder. And to me, I just wonder if that's a focus group thing. If that's like a hand-wringing about the Bible Belt being mad about having a god in an animated kids show.
Some TV network shenanigans.
That's what I have no research saying that is the case. All I'm saying is they've been referred to as guardians. They've not been referred to yet as gods. To my observation. Maybe I've missed it. Contact at issueswithcartoons.com if I'm wrong. But I think it's so interesting that in a TV show that had a man beat to death, in a TV show that has, all kinds of...
They can't say God of Thunder.
They can't say God of Thunder. And, they weren't afraid to do that in the 60s with the comics code, but evidently TV standards and practices. Again, no hard evidence to say this is the case. My impression, though, it reads to me a lot like we're afraid to say
something
that
censored.
word.
Something got censored.
Yeah,
maybe.
Or maybe they just, in the same way that Nazis aren't involved in this show at all, and they use Hydra instead of Nazis.
That's very much like the films, though. They were afraid how it would perform in other countries.
And I wonder if that's a little bit of that, too. So, we can tell that they have some concern about how audiences will perceive things they do in the show. I don't know. It felt focus groupy, studio intervention-y to me. We get one more coda with Black Panther watching all this unfold from the shadows. And then we see Hulk in the Arctic. Interestingly enough, the shot of the Hulk in the Arctic walking past Cap's frozen shield was very reminiscent of a deleted scene from the Incredible Hulk 2008 film. Are you familiar with this?
I think I have seen it. Yeah, it doesn't...
It's pretty much this scene.
Shield.
It's this scene where Hulk is in the Arctic and he walks past a frozen shield.
I'm glad it didn't unfold like that with the original movies. Like, it would have... It's just too much.
How did you feel about it here? Do you feel like it was a good tease here?
I thought it was fine. See, like, if you did it in the MCU, it would have been the second film in. Hulk finds Cap's shield.
With no context for who Cap is.
And we haven't seen Cap yet. So, like, this show is different. We've seen Cap.
And that's an interesting contrast to the MCU and maybe an example of how the format that they picked really worked in their favor. Mm-hmm. Where they're able to spend a lot of time, and we talked about this before, they spent a lot of time laying groundwork, and that's coming to fruition now. Because they're able to reference basically 20 minisodes, 5 whole episodes of content. They're able to kind of make references and teases and acknowledgments and callbacks to stuff that we've already seen. So It's a good point. And they weren't able to do that in the MCU. Not a whole lot for me to say on this one. I'd say if we're comparing this to Breakout, I'd say the Breakout 2-parter was stronger. It also had the benefit of being twice as long as this one.
This episode, it just kind of went by fast for me, and definitely not as notable.
Yeah, I still like the character interactions, still like the character designs. I like the introduction to a lot of those Avengers tropes that, as a reader, I'm very familiar with. I think it didn't feel consequential outside of the Hulk leaving. It's not like we didn't move any of the stories forward other than Hulk's leaving, and I think we have this sense that Hulk will probably be back. So, I mean, I feel like we didn't spend a whole lot of time on this episode, but I am interested in talking about the comics that we've picked for this episode too. So I'm glad we'll have some extra time.
I'm curious if Enchantress will come back, how this ties in with Loki.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions leaving this episode too, so we'll see how it all unfolds later.
Great. All right. Well, let's go ahead and pause here, and we'll be back to talk about some comics.
Comics. Hello, welcome back to Issues with Cartoons, where we'll be covering Avengers number 2.
Yes, the sophomore episode, the sophomore issue of the Avengers series. We covered issue 1 back in episode 6, so if you missed that, please go back and listen to our coverage of that. But this is the introduction of the Space Phantom. This is the first episode, the first issue that includes the group meeting together as a team. This is the first time we see Avengers Mansion. So, some things happening in this issue. Armed with a fantastic power, the Space Phantom sets out to destroy Earth's mightiest superheroes. And in this issue, you can see the new Giant Man, Carl.
That's right, the new Giant Man adorns this cover. It's so bizarre having the Space Phantom superimposed inside of the Hulk body frame in the cover, but Hulk is somehow drawn smaller than he normally is.
I wanted to bring that up too. Yeah, I'm noticing the scaling on that cover is strange.
It is.
I don't know what if that's just an effect of having Giant Man right there, or maybe Thor's drawn too big. But yeah, the scaling on this cover, is a little strange. One thing I just wanted to mention is the release date for this issue is September of 1963, and the month before that was Tales to Astonish 49. You're asking, Kyle, what's Tales to Astonish 49? That was the first appearance of Hank Pym as Giant Man. So the timing of all this is pretty synergistic. They got Giant Man showing up in his own book, and then the next month he carries over into Avengers. And I bring that up mainly because this was the beginning, this is the first sign, I think, of the attempt to make it all fit within Avengers. And I think it created a problem that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby would have to later solve, and would eventually solve in Avengers 16. Because what they had, similar to the problem they have now, where they have characters who have their own books, who have to coexist in a book together. And so all the big stuff that happens in them has to happen outside of the Avengers book. And so it has to be pretty plot-driven within the Avengers title. And they solve this in Avengers 16 by getting rid of all the founders and bringing in characters who don't have their own book as members, other than Captain America. So just interesting that they have, in the second issue, a major character status change that they have to address right on the cover.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about what that is later, what the character.
Oh yeah,
drifting away from the team.
And there's one other solution. You're right.
It's just like all Avengers comics. There's a major shakeup with the Avengers team. We got to find out what happened.
So and that, honestly, as a fan, I always loved when Avengers lineups would shake up because it was exciting. It was just a chance to get some new personalities in the mix.
Sure, get some new characters, get some new blood, and thus get some new stories.
Exactly. All right, so
moving on from the cover here.
Let's move on from the cover onto this splash page. Paul Reinman on inks, and Art Simic on letters. Real quick note for people who are reading this on Marvel Unlimited. It looks to me like they've done some digital rendering on the colors to this issue.
Don't quote us on that. But
don't quote us, but I don't know if printing in 1960 could do that kind of gradient scale on gradient shading on the Hulk or on Iron Man. I don't know. It just stood out to me. But
there's some splatter brushes stuff going on there too.
That's what it looks like.
I'm sure some of that would have looked faded on the newsprint and stuff, but like I know for a fact it didn't look like that.
Right. Hulk has 3 toes on this page. I don't know if that's
I didn't notice
normal. Also, Thor.
Good eye on that. Yeah, I missed that.
Thor is repulsed by the manner in which Hulk is dressed, which surprises me because this is actually a very tame look for the Hulk, where he actually has pants without rips in them, but not good enough for Thor. I think this is a good callback to the episode we just watched, where Hulk and Thor are definitely at odds a lot, and you actually even see that in the MCU, where they are just 2 big personalities with completely opposing outlooks on life and how to behave. And
I don't want to dog on the art on this too much, but like the Iron Man pose feels lazy to me.
And that hammer looks small. I'm kind of wondering now how crunched this issue was to get out.
Right. It's just not up to the quality that I expect.
Yeah, and you can't put it all on Paul Reinman. I mean, his inks don't look all that bad to me. So, Kirby is obviously unassailable. We love Jack Kirby. I think no one's going to mistake this criticism as us saying we don't like Jack Kirby. But, that man put out more pages per week than some people do in an entire year. I mean, that guy was churning out pages.
Look, I just flipped back, though. The Hulk has 3 toes on the cover, too.
Was that the design?
So maybe this is something where, like, the Hulk always had 3 toes, and,
I didn't pay attention to Incredible Hulk #1 when we covered it.
I was about to say, I almost want to go back and check if he has 3 toes.
Okay, go ahead and talk a little bit. I'm going to just look up the cover to Hulk #1 real fast.
Yeah, so as we kind of move in, we have this like really up close shot of Thor's hammer. It's still not called Mjolnir yet. It's just referred to as Thor's hammer throughout. And we have the Ant-Man and the Wasp are kind of reaching out, and they change size to greet the Avengers. The team is still Thor.
Yeah, they didn't use a projector this time.
And Hulk, yeah, they just kind of took their pin particles and changed size or whatever.
Hulk has 10 toes in Incredible Hulk #1. So
yeah,
interesting.
So they changed his toes later on.
So interesting, but I don't think it was a permanent change. But yeah, so we get they're assembling, they're coming together to like get to know each other better and to establish regular meetings.
No backgrounds on this page.
None. Although, and I love pointing it out whenever it happens, good size comparison with Ant-Man and Wasp in that first panel on page 2.
Sure.
Page 3 has a kind of cool moment where it's the introduction of the Space Phantom, who's our villain in this episode, or in this issue. His spacecraft, which just looks kind of like an egg. They actually call it a strange egg-like object. It is a shapeshifter as well. The spaceship is a shapeshifter, and it is able to mimic the properties of a nearby meteor. And that's how he's able to enter the atmosphere without being noticed. And then he arrives on the planet and immediately finds a poor strange passerby, and he sends him off to limbo so he can take his appearance. So because no two identical bodies can coexist, you must be banished to limbo, the silent world between shadow and substance. And so this poor random man is sent to this pretty cool looking ethereal, almost Ditko-y looking location.
Right.
While the Space Phantom heads to Anthony Stark's mansion.
And the Avengers can see all this through their TV table.
They can see him approaching the mansion with their very, very modern TV warning screen that's on their table. And so Hulk goes to investigate, and the Space Phantom takes that as an opportunity to switch places with the Hulk. And this issue's premise is mainly Space Phantom trying to mess with the Avengers and turn them on each other by taking their place.
Yeah, and so when he takes her place, he sends them to limbo, essentially. So when he takes Hulk's place, Hulk doesn't exist, Hulk's in limbo, and he becomes the Hulk.
Right.
Essentially, just to explain it.
And Space Phantom, outside of this appearance, I think he showed up in Thor a couple times. I know him from the Avengers Forever maxi series because Immortus plays very heavily in that series and is the Lord of Limbo, and they tie that in with Space Phantoms. But beyond that, this is not really a major player in Avengers.
Okay.
In the Avengers rogues.
Okay, but at the bottom of this page, Hulk has 4 or 5 digits on his feet.
Oh,
so Hulk's
really?
feet are changing throughout the issue.
Well, I have to say that must be the editor missing some stuff, and that editor was Stan Lee.
Or Hulk smashed some toes.
Oh, poor Hulk. Well, maybe
He's
that's...
got 5 toes on this next page.
Maybe
Look.
Space Phantom's not able to replicate the 3 toes.
Page 6, he has 5 toes.
Oh my goodness gracious. So, yeah, someone just didn't want to draw feet. Yeah, I don't want to dog on Jack Kirby's art, but yeah, that's some inconsistencies there, Jack. Sorry, buddy.
I didn't notice it on first read, though. Like,
I'm
only noticing it coming back to it and talking about it
that's
for the show.
That's so funny. This definitely feels rushed, though. If you look at the Hulk faces on page 6, it does definitely feel like maybe they were just trying to churn it out.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to read about the timetable because, yeah, there is a lot of inconsistencies.
Page 7 has, in the middle of the page, you have the guy who Space Phantom sent into limbo.
Yeah, he disappeared, yeah.
He's telling everyone what happened, and they're all not having it. They all just think he's kind of crazy. And this guy's bad day just gets worse because then the Hulk comes, who's really the Space Phantom, and rips up the sidewalk where he's standing. In a really cool looking panel where you kind of see the underworkings of that sidewalk with the plumbing and everything.
Yeah.
And then
that's creative for sure.
I liked it, but then you go back into the background, and behind that building there's just white space. And then Rick Jones shows up, and Rick knows the Hulk pretty well and kind of realizes he's acting out of character, and so Space Phantom as Hulk leaps away to get him off on his own, and takes that as an opportunity to tell him that he's really the Space Phantom, and that he's just using the Hulk to manipulate events, and that I'm just going to let you know that and leave you out here in the middle of nowhere. That panel where Hulk returns for just a split second, he's like, huh? What happened to me? It's so strange to see the Hulk in that position. Although 3 toes on that Hulk. I'm beginning to think Space Phantom just can't do the 3 toes.
Were there different inkers?
He has 4 toes on page 10 when it's the Space Phantom.
They did different finishes on different pages.
I wonder.
Strange.
Yeah, it is strange.
Back and forth.
We've been talking, I don't know if we've said it on air or off air, but Iron Man has been referred to as Anthony Stark for every issue we've read. The Tales of Suspense issue, all the Avengers issues. And the first mention of Tony Stark that I've seen comes on page 10, panel 2. Not in the caption where he's referred to as Anthony Stark, but in the dialogue box by one of the weapons operators saying, I tell you, Bill, that Tony Stark is a genius. He dreams up these weapons almost faster than we can test them. And that's the first time he's called Tony in a book we've read. I'd be interested to know, Tales of Suspense is going on while this is all happening. I'm interested when Anthony stopped being the default name. Because, he's still called Anthony in the rest of the book. It's very interesting. Speaking of whom...
Yeah, first time we hear Tony. Yeah.
Page 11, we see Tony with his giant metal torso wrapped around his body. And it's plugged into an outlet to keep his transistor-powered heart activator operational.
Do they still sell those?
I've always assumed that's how those things worked. Yeah, it's like you can probably just get
Go
it
down to CVS real quick.
I think you probably need a prescription, but I bet you could get it. But man, the energy bill on that. Good thing he's a billionaire. If he's having to constantly
How
plug
long
that
was
in.
he sitting in that chair charging that?
I don't know, but you got to figure you're putting out some wattage. Like that's gonna rack up on your bill at the end of the month. So he gets a call saying the Hulk stole his missile gun, and he says that's impossible. Hold everything. I'll send Iron Man to the site immediately. So he suits up, puts on his sleeves, and then leaps into action, and we get a fight scene, a very brief fight between Hulk and Iron Man, but of course it's Space Phantom Hulk. And
yeah, and it's basically Tony shoots an electrical pulse through the Hulk, and he has some weapons that his arms are able to transform into.
That was an interesting element that I don't think comes back. I
don't think so.
But it should be noted that in the middle of this fight, Hulk shows some signs of fear at Iron Man, and that's because obviously it's Space Phantom. So Space Phantom turns into a bug and leaves, bringing the real Hulk back from limbo, and the fight just keeps going. This thing that attaches to his arm, like some kind of cannon or something.
Yeah, it's
very
like
interesting.
A weapon, and then it's like next panel, it becomes a hammer.
It's a hammer. Yeah, so interesting. Apologies to Thor, he says, because no more than one Avenger can hold a hammer. We cut to the Team Brigade because Rick needs to call Giant Man to help resolve this issue because he's figured out what the Space Phantom plot is, obviously.
I like this girl that's hanging out with him. She's like, her caption is, "Wait till I tell the girls at my sewing circle."
Well, yeah, because one of the kids in the Team Brigade is like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to call Giant Man? Mom, Pa, he's going to call Giant Man. Don't miss this."
Yeah, right.
Say, this is thrilling. And yeah, she's going to tell all the girls in her sewing circle.
She's excited, man.
I mean, because where else would women talk about Giant Man but at a sewing circle?
We're also quoting. Never mind, I'm not going to go there.
So, yeah, it's very Stan Lee. And yep, you get a note to go to Tales to Astonish number 49 to meet Giant Man, but we see him here growing to doubling in size while Wasp becomes insect size. And one thing about Giant Man being introduced that I really enjoy is this visual that we get at the end of page 13, this last panel. This is a pretty common visual display that happens after he becomes Giant Man. You see this throughout comics history where it's Giant Man with the little wasp on his fingertip. Mm-hmm. And that size disparity, it is just so visually interesting.
Looks great.
And it really does look great. Even with the weird color effects that they have on the modern recoloring. But yeah, the whole thing that I keep harping on with Ant-Man and the size contrast, you get that much more with Giant Man. So you see him scooping up a car or stopping a car in page 14. And then he intervenes and they try to get to the bottom of things.
Hulk has 4 toes.
Does he have 4 toes now?
Yeah.
But that's 14. Not Space Phantom Hulk, so we can't no prize it away. Yeah, so if you ever found a continuity error in 60s comics and you told Stan about it and you had a reason why the continuity error actually made sense, no matter how convoluted, if he liked it enough, he would give you a no prize, which is just an empty envelope.
It's just no prize.
No prize.
It is with the name.
No prize, but Stan would bless you with it.
Yeah, it was in letter columns all throughout Marvel.
Visual on page 15, panel 2. Okay. I really like. I always love it when artists do this in comics, and it's a cutaway of the cybernetic helmet.
Looks great. Yeah.
It looks so good. Doesn't make sense.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but I do really, really like it.
It's unique.
It is
stands
unique.
out from some of the other panels.
And I guess I say it doesn't make sense, but when he shrinks down, that mask becomes the Ant-Man helmet. So I guess this could be related to that.
Right.
But then Space Phantom takes over Giant Man and sends Giant Man into limbo, and he starts turning on the Hulk, and very short fight ensues where he starts throwing a tractor, a tank tractor. Oh, it's a moon tractor at the Hulk, and then he gets bored being Giant Man and switches to Iron Man. It's just a lot of the Space Phantom bouncing back and forth between Avengers, honestly, and they just take turns of who they're fighting.
Yeah.
But kind of starting with that cybernetic helmet and then forward, I'm really liking some of the shots we get. Like the body language of these characters falling into limbo is really exciting.
He does a good job conveying that, and it's such a strange concept. Like, I feel like if a writer gave me the script, I would be insulted. And they were like, hey, render this for me. I'd be like, how am I supposed to convey that? But like Kirby just like goes for it.
He does it.
And he does it really well.
Page 19, I like how Paul Reinman inked the transformation panel of Don Blake. That's something we talked about in the Journey into Mystery issue, where Joe Sinnott does it a little different than Dick Ayers does a little different than Chick Stone does it. They all do it a little differently. I like this version. This is a nice inky, blotty version. I think that's the type I like.
Reminds me of Klaus Janson. It has like all the indications of a classic comic panel, but the lines are really thick and like
that
not perfect.
Thick Janson, that's a
Janson
great
line.
Great reference. Very, very smart.
Just throw that out there.
The page 20 has some dynamic stuff going on too, with Iron Man kind of whirling everyone around with air jets. Then you get a close up of his hand, and Wasp messing with the circuitry.
I think that's my favorite moment.
That's
Wasp,
so good.
Like, zoomed in, messing with the circuit.
And like Wasp solves the problem with dismantling the armor and giving Thor time to go after the Space Phantom Iron Man. And then he taps his hammer down and creates a storm and basically rusts Iron Man, Space Phantom as Iron Man, and banishes himself into limbo. And then we get to the part that I think you were referring to earlier, the one that calls back to the episode of Earth's Mightiest Heroes that we watched. Hulk says, I never suspected how much each of you hates me deep down. I could tell by the way you fought me, by the remarks you made. Well, I don't need any of you. I'm still the Hulk. I'm still the strongest thing walking the earth. And whatever I do from now on, I do alone.
Yeah, Hulk just doesn't feel like he's part of the team, and he leaves and
quits.
Runs off. So like Hulk is no longer part of the team, right?
And I have to stress, I have to reiterate, he does not become an Avenger again until the 2010s. This is 1963, right? Or maybe 1964.
I wonder if like they had a discussion about taking Hulk out of the book or anything.
I mean, yeah, I wonder if maybe as he was working on it, maybe Lee and Kirby were just like, it doesn't make sense for him to be there. Like maybe they thought he works too much better as a loose cannon than as like an establishment figure, or as like a
or they didn't know what to do with him. I did bring up with the point of view or the point. I did bring up the point that this is the second issue in a row of the Avengers fighting a brainwashed Hulk.
Maybe they were afraid they were running in circles with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So maybe that's why they sent Hulk off. I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm just guessing here.
If you remember our discussion about the Incredible Hulk, issue 1, and we talked about how the first part of that comic was really strong, and as soon as he starts fighting communists with the Americans, it becomes less interesting because he's not being an anti-establishment character. maybe Lee and Kirby could sense that. Maybe they could tell that this wasn't how the Hulk worked best.
Right.
And again, I mentioned that he does become a member of the Defenders, but the Defenders, by definition, is such a loose organization that you barely consider him a team member. But anyway, any other thoughts on Avengers issue 2?
I don't really have anything else for it. I thought it was a fun read. Had some interesting concepts. The art felt rushed.
Yes, I think that's the big takeaway from that. But let's pivot to Journey into Mystery 103. Can the mighty Thor defeat 2 of the strangest super menaces of all time? The Enchantress and the Executioner. Immortal versus Immortal. Thor's most titanic battle. We promise that you will never forget the breathtaking Enchantress. Really kind of selling the sex appeal of Enchantress throughout this whole issue.
Yeah, they're really pushing that angle that she's this beautiful woman that can get whatever she wants through her sex appeal.
Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Chick Stone on inks, Sam Rosen, menaced by the Enchantress and the Executioner. The display lettering on these old 60s books is just so good. I love them all.
Yeah, there hasn't been a bad one yet, honestly, out of anything we've looked at.
I agree. So this issue opens with Thor returning from the future. We are missing out on an adventure where he was in conflict with Zarko the Tomorrow Man, a time traveler from the... What century is he from? I don't even know if it says. He's just from the future, and Thor's returned, and he's exhausted, as Don Blake. Jane Foster is there to kind of dote on him, and they both clearly love each other, but don't seem to be ready to tell each other yet.
Yeah, for some reason he hasn't proposed to her yet. She wonders.
And we get this kind of dream / flashback to catch readers up, which I found very helpful. But then we cut away to Asgard. And Odin has a problem. What's his problem, Carl?
He does not want Thor dating a mortal woman.
I have failed to drive the love for Jane Foster from the heart of Thor.
Yeah. He doesn't like that his son is dating Jane.
It's real tough when the in-laws don't like you. And it's real tough when one of them is the king of the gods. And
Loki quickly steps in. He's like, "Don't worry, Dad. I got this.
I got
covered. This. I'll get rid of this."
But what's so funny is he says, "I'll take care of it," and then immediately delegates it. So, so he tells in the next panel, he's like, the more beautiful, more desirable person to put in front of Thor will probably distract him from this mortal girl, and so everyone knows who Loki's talking about. If you're talking about the most attractive lady in Asgard, you gotta be talking about the Enchantress.
It's Enchantress, and she's just laying in a very sexual pose on her back, like pinup girl style.
Yeah, on this fur rug. And we also have evidence that Jack Kirby looked at pinups as inspiration for stuff.
Oh, yeah, Playboy and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So not outside of the realm. We get this panel with Loki takes his helmet off. Off-putting to me.
He's flirting with her, though.
Yeah, but
he's
it's
flirting.
Just... Well, and, maybe that's the off-putting thing.
He's got to fix his hair, He's about to go talk to the... He's about to go talk to the Enchantress.
Right. The most desirable woman ever.
And it is really flirty, this whole thing. They're just complimenting each other the whole time.
Yeah, they're definitely thirsting for each other, but Loki's just like, I know better, because I know this chick's going to stab me in the back.
Yeah.
But Enchantress arrives at a salon with fashion designers and demands to have a new wardrobe to help her fit in. And I have to say, Kirby and Chick Stone render these characters really well. I mean,
he drew all those romance comics, and it's starting to come in handy here.
Absolutely, it is. It does definitely read as a romance comic. I mean,
Seductor is coming in.
Yeah, and even some of like the little like small characters that you see on this, like this cab driver, like I love how he's rendered.
Yeah, a lot of character there in the face.
And that's a beautiful face of Enchantress on that next panel, like that very next panel. Like they're all really you bring up a good point with the romance comics. Every now and then, like that history of Kirby being the forefather of romance comics presents itself.
Yeah.
And it's great that it shows up in like a Marvel superhero comic. He's still able to flex those muscles. I mean,
drawing jealous dames and fools falling in love.
That had to be a Young Romance cover copy. So he used that.
Maybe I stole it somewhere.
Maybe no. I mean, if not, you should use it. Make your own romance comic zine.
I'm not above that.
I don't think you should be. I think that's great. But try as she might,
Nothing's working.
She just can't get that Don Blake to like her more than Jane. Although she does manage to manipulate Jane's feelings because she assaults Don Blake by kissing him without consent just as Jane is walking in. She's not having it. She's not happy.
Yeah. So Enchantress succeeds, and then she kind of he goes chasing after Jane, like, oh, let me explain, and then she's back on Asgard, just walking around.
Yeah, she realizes that she's not getting anywhere, and the only way that Don Blake is gonna stop loving Jane is if Jane's dead.
Yeah, if she's murdered.
So who do you go to execute somebody?
The Executioner.
You go to the Executioner. And I think this is such a cool visual, and I love, as a visual character, the Executioner is so great.
I think so too. I was talking to you about this off air. His helmet's great.
His helmet is great.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize it. I know the Executioner primarily, again, from 60s Avengers comics. I don't remember this helmet. And I don't think Walt Simonson incorporated this helmet much in the pages of his Thor run that I have read. Mm-hmm. I don't know if other appearances of Skurge the Executioner incorporate this helmet, but it is a very cool design. Very, very Kirby.
Enchantress is devious. She's just like, hey, here's this picture I stole off of Don's desk. Now you know what Jane looks like. Now you can go murder her.
It's like, that's all I need. And he's got he's got the heart of a serpent, the power of a Goliath, the eyes of a hunting falcon, and he begins his sinister mission. And so Thor, I love this. Don Blake is looking for Jane, so he can't find her. So he turns into Thor, and then what does he do? He goes to the police as Thor to sound an all points alarm. And I just think you didn't have to turn to Thor to go to the police about a missing person.
Like, Don could have just went to the police.
You turn to Thor to fly around looking for Jane. You don't turn to Thor to go to the cops and say, I need you to go look for Jane. Anyway, it, set up a chance for the police to say, well, we're too busy right now dealing with an 8-foot-tall stranger carrying an axe and wearing some armor. And Thor knows exactly who he's talking about.
So Executioner is walking through this crowd downtown, and he finds Natalie Portman. I mean Jane Foster, and he starts his murder attempts.
Right, yeah, and actually uses literal superhuman falcon vision, which I think is so great. And so he spins this axe around, but that axe doesn't cut human flesh. Oh no, that's too basic.
No.
This manipulates time and space and sends you to where? Where does it send you?
To world
limbo.
Between here and there, to limbo.
So once again, another appearance of limbo in the Marvel Universe. I believe Avengers issue 2 came out before this by the same creative team, so you presume this is the same limbo as the Space Phantom. I just find that interesting.
It could be. Could be.
Thor's pissed, so he and Executioner fight it out. Yeah, and Executioner holds his own. He delivers some pretty good shots.
Thor's trying with
Thor's dishing back, but then Executioner frosts him, coats him in a sheet of ice, tries to stop him, but ultimately Thor gets the upper hand and is able to get the axe out of his hands, and Skurge pretty much rolls over right after that. And he pretty much says, please give me my axe back. If you give me my axe back, I'll bring the girl back. Nothing is as important to me as that axe. And so...
Weapons over dames.
Weapons over dames. And so... Or, excuse, I said he wants the axe. I'm sorry, I misread that. He wants the hammer. He wants the hammer more than anything. So he brings Jane back, and Thor puts the hammer down. But of course, Executioner forgot. He can't pick up Thor's hammer. No one can pick up Thor's hammer. And then Enchantress is so mad that her plan didn't work and that Executioner failed that she turns him into a tree? What is she doing here?
Yeah, his arms start just growing branches, and suddenly he grows 3 toes. I mean, he grows rocks for feet.
Rocks for feet, amazing. I'm going to keep an eye on Hulk's feet, not to be weird about it.
And then we have, like, Enchantress in full form. She's 100% back.
Yep.
She's kicking Enchantress, it looks like.
Yeah.
Or kicking Executioner. I'm sorry, she's not kicking herself. She's kicking Executioner.
Right. And the whole time, Thor's kind of worried that he's going to run out of time because there's that 60-second rule with the hammer where if he's not touching it, he turns to Don Blake and he's going to do it in front of Jane. But then when Enchantress shows up, that's just in time for Thor to pick up the hammer and basically save his secret identity. And so we kind of end with Enchantress just kind of admitting that she failed and that her beauty wasn't enough. And Thor sends them away back to Asgard with his hammer, which seems, I'm noticing, to be the end of a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
Whenever the gods come and mess with Thor on Earth, he's just using Mjolnir to send them back. Still love that color palette of that Bifrost Bridge, though.
Yeah, they're total failures, according to the caption.
But yeah, things are still a little shaky with Jane. She's still a little mad about that kiss that Amora forced on Don Blake. But at least they move on. And she just thinks, maybe I can make him jealous with Thor. In a very Lois and Clark and Superman kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
it is like that.
And Odin is just furious.
Yeah, he's just fuming. He's like, why is my...
Jane is just that girl that's in the way of all of those plans he has for his dear old son.
Yeah.
And that's where we end this issue of Journey into Mystery. Although I will say this does include a backup feature that I've talked about before. This is not the first Tales of Asgard backup, but it is, I think, an earlier one and worth a read for people. Tales of Asgard is one of those things that made Kirby's run on Thor famous and memorable, where it's a mix of adapting Norse myths into the Marvel Universe, and it's also creating new stories using original characters.
The art's great.
Oh, man, you can tell this is what, just from, again, same creative team as the principal story. You can tell that this is what interested Kirby.
Yeah,
was the mythology.
It shows. It shows in some of the images and stuff.
It's very, very strong. And this is the myth of Ask and Embla being created, which are, I guess, the kind of Adam and Eve of Norse mythology, perhaps. Not as studied on Norse mythology, but that brings us to the end of Journey into Mystery 103, Carl. What'd you think?
I liked it. I can see the beginnings of, Enchantress and the Executioner, which is fun, and they obviously pop up later in the canon. Overall, I enjoyed it. I might have enjoyed it more than Avengers 2.
I was going to ask you if that was your feeling on it.
Which, some people might get angry and send me into limbo for saying that, but I found the art to be more interesting.
I definitely don't think this one was rushed the way Avengers 2 was rushed.
Yeah.
I also think Enchantress is a more interesting antagonist than Space Phantom.
Oh, easily.
Not entirely confident on what Space Phantom's goal was, other than to like try to tear apart the Avengers. But Enchantress, like, pretty cut and dry, and I think the Executioner is a cool physical match for Thor. Yeah, I think I might agree with you there that this was maybe a more entertaining issue. I like the consequences of Avengers 2 with Hulk leaving, but I think I like the execution of the Journey into Mystery issue maybe a little better.
And I'm left with wanting more. Odin still doesn't want Thor to date Jane. And,
what a wild conflict for a superhero comic. Like, just a controlling father who doesn't want you dating a certain girl. Which is essentially what that story is. But, alright, Carl. What do you have to plug?
www.carllucasdraws.com. You can follow me on Facebook at Carl Lucas Art. You can read my book Shogun Bear in the House of Horrors. I will be at Genghis Khan at the Pivots Arts Center in Cleveland, Ohio in December. Kyle, what do you have to plug?
I got Ko-fi.com/Kyle Windle, Cornelius Armstrong, Adventures in Antics, Thunder Duck, Mad Science Rejects. Commissions are available. Contact at issueswithcartoons.com for any suggestions, questions, or comments. You can also follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Tell us which one you preferred. Did you like Journey into Mystery, or did you like Avengers 2 if you've been reading along? What other cartoons do you want us to start thinking about covering after we're done covering Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes? We're going to be taking a break once we're done with Season 1 of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. We just covered Episode 8, so we are about a third of the way through Season 1, and we want to do a couple of quick shows and maybe some animated movies in between the two seasons. Which of those projects would you like us to talk about? Go ahead and comment and tell your friends. We want more of you to follow along with us and enjoy this conversation that we're having.
That's right. If we can get more people involved, then maybe it'll steer the content a little bit more than what we have planned. We do have a good bit planned, but not everything needs to be planned. We'll pivot accordingly.
Well, and we want you to enjoy it as much as we enjoy it, and we hope you are. But until then, stay tuned for more from Issues with Cartoons.
That's right, and more puns.
So many puns. Too many? No.